In today's video, I'm going to show you how to permanently, and I'm talking permanently, remove bad habits, addictions, self-sabotage, and create consistency with the habits and good routines that you want to have. This is probably going to be the most important video I've created. This is going to blow your fucking mind, okay? I honestly didn't want to create this video at first. I wanted to only create it for my members area, for my clients, but this is something that's so close and dear to my heart because throughout my entire life I've found ways to self-sabotage and have bad habits, addictions, and have a hard time creating consistency in routines. I even have them show up till this day, but at least now I know how to overcome it. Now I know how to permanently get rid of it really quickly as they come up. This is probably going to be a two-part video, because I don't know if I can cover everything in one video without making it too long. In today's video, we're gonna go over why this is happening. What's going on in your brain? How is this showing up? Why is it showing up? And just by knowing this information, you're gonna start to become aware of when these things show up in your life, and that itself is gonna help you break the pattern. But in the second video, we're gonna go over more of the how-tos, the specific step-by-steps that you should be taking. So, let's get into it. Why is this happening? Why are we creating bad habits? Why are we constantly going towards addictions and addictive behaviors and self-sabotage? When we first talk about where this comes from, this probably comes from not having enough normalcy in your childhood or teenage life. For me personally, growing up in the home that I grew up in, it was just constant up and downs. One day there would be tons of love and affection, and then another day there would be nothing but household abuse, and I'm seeing violence right in front of my eyes. And when this happens, what starts to happen is you want self-gratifications, instant gratification measures, things that you do to make yourself feel good, because there's no pattern to the ups and downs. There's no pattern to the consequence and reward. And because there's no pattern, as a kid or as a teenager, you go, how can I make myself at least feel good right now? Because I don't know when I'm gonna get scolded. I don't know when something good is gonna happen. So I have to take measures into my own hands to make myself feel good right now. And this is where you start to create a little bit of these addictive behaviors. You start to also have a low belief and low self-worth, belief that you actually don't deserve a good life. You don't deserve a higher consciousness life or a life that has normalcy because you went through so many ups and downs. You create the belief that this is just how things are supposed to be, and I don't have any control over this. So your RAS, your reticular activating system, that part of your brain that focuses, starts to focus on doing what feels good instead of what is good for me. And this is the huge reason why a lot of people nowadays do not have discipline. Don't do what is actually good for them, even if it doesn't feel good, but instead do things that feel good right now, even if it's not good for them. So what actually happens? Now you're an adult. You have an emotional need, a hunger, some need or thing that you want is not being fulfilled emotionally. And so you start to seek a dopamine release. You want your brain to release a little bit of dopamine so you actually have a sense of accomplishment. You have a sense that something good happened throughout your day. And so you do something that will provide you with short but unfulfilling sense of accomplishment. It's not fulfilling long term. It's just short, quick right now. How can I feel a little bit of accomplishment? So for example, you go on Instagram to check your notifications. Okay, you want a quick dopamine spike and be like, oh, see, there's people who liked my stuff. See, there's people who commented on my stuff. This is all happening under the conscious mind of your umbrella. You make the decision to check Instagram and check notifications. It's a very conscious decision. The problem with this is now you triggered yourself towards a serotonin behavior. Meaning, because the dopamine is unfulfilling, you want to feel good. You're like, that didn't feel good enough. I want to feel good right now. You trigger yourself to go towards something that provides you serotonin release. Serotonin is when you have sex, when you eat food, when you do things that make you feel good right now, sensory pleasures. So it derives a serotonin behavior or short-term gain. This is what I call instant gratification measures, things that we do right now that makes us feel good. This can be triggered by your environment, a friend, it could be an influence such as checking Instagram notifications. And so now you do something to make you feel good, such as scrolling too long on Instagram, scrolling on TikTok, watching porn, watching Netflix, smoking weed, something that's going to provide you with sensory pleasures. And this is now going into the subconscious part of your brain. You didn't necessarily make this decision, it just happened as a result of the previous decision you made. You checked your Instagram, oh, now I find myself scrolling. Now I find myself on a porn website. Now I find myself smoking weed. And it just constantly rolls from there. Which then causes you to feel pain. You feel bad about it. You feel bad about procrastinating and scrolling on Instagram for hours. Because the behavior is outside of your personal values, your goals, your intentions, or your moral compass. And because it's outside of your moral compass, this causes you to feel pain. Here's where things get really messed up. Because you feel pain, you have a release of endorphins. Endorphins is our body's natural painkiller. It's like our body's natural morphine, okay? And it's very addictive. So you create this endorphin release in your body, and now this whole cycle that you went through, you want to experience it again, not because you want to instantly gratify yourselves or get dopamine, but because you want to get endorphins. You want to get that natural high. You want to get that natural morphine into your body. And you actually start to become addicted to this. The crazy thing is about this cycle is that over time, one, it's easier to do. Your body naturally goes into this faster and faster every time you do this cycle. Two, you require a higher intensity for that addictive behavior or a higher duration. So instead of watching porn once or scrolling for 1 hour on Instagram, now you find yourself scrolling 2-3 hours. Now you find yourself scrolling 5 hours. Now you find yourself watching porn 2-3 times or watching really messed up stuff, okay? Because it requires a higher intensity for you to get that same endorphin release. And then you have a recommitment cycle. The recommitment cycle is also very addictive. So you partake in the behavior, the instant gratification measure such as procrastinating, porn, smoking, whatever it is. This creates a serotonin release. Again, very addictive. You feel an emotion behind this, which is shame and guilt. You're like, oh, I feel terrible about this, which creates that endorphins. And then you go back into recommitment. You say, I never, ever want to watch porn again. I never want to scroll on Instagram again. I never want to do XYZ again. And that actually creates a dopamine spike. You feel a sense of small amount of accomplishment by saying, I never want to do it again. And I intend to never watch porn again. So 2, 3, 4 weeks go by, maybe months go by. But then all of a sudden the behavior shows up in your life again. And the behavior shows up in your life again because you suppress the real emotion, the real root cause of everything that's happening here. And so you go through this cycle over and over again. And every time you go through this cycle, a new wiring in your brain is created. Synapses connect and it almost becomes a formed unconscious routine. It just becomes a pattern that you do unconsciously. This is all very unconscious here. So let's take a breather. I know this is a lot to take in. This, when I first heard of it, blew my fucking mind because I finally understood what was happening in my brain on a chemical level, on a wiring level. So how do we go back here where we're in our conscious brain and make a conscious decision? Well, first, we need to reset our need for high levels of dopamine. I'm going to show you how to do that in part 2. We need to fulfill our need for positive emotions throughout our day. Usually, you want that dopamine release because your day wasn't fulfilling enough. It wasn't accomplishing enough. We need to fulfill our need for negative emotions. We have to make sure that we bring our negative emotions down, recenter ourselves. We have to learn how to do that. We have to create environmental changes that doesn't allow us to be in that same environment or influence. Okay, we need to create an accountability for this with rewards and punishment. When we do something that's good, we reward ourselves. When we do something that's bad, we punish ourselves so that we don't want to do it again. And we have to make sure we don't isolate ourselves during this entire process. Your problems were not created in isolation. So you can't expect yourself to get out of it in isolation. That's the general overview, okay? Now, if you want to watch part 2, where I actually go into the how-to of doing all of this, comment down below part 2 so I know that you want it, and I will create it for you guys. Hopefully this kind of blew your mind and made you aware of what's actually happening in your brain. And if this helped, make sure to comment and like, subscribe, and we will talk soon. Take care.